Welcome everyone to Raise the Standard, the Investor Execution System. Tonight we're going to go talk about why most investors stay stuck learning about real estate instead of executing deals, and the system I've built to help investors close that investment property within 90 days. This is going to be an overview of just some of the things that I offer to my clients and individuals that I work with. Not everybody use me as their broker, but most use me to help strategize how to accomplish those goals with building a real estate portfolio. I'm gonna go into a little bit of my background of why you should listen to me, and then go through the different pillars that I've created over the years. I don't try to say I'm a guru. I don't think I'm any of those things. I'm a practical person, and you'll see that as I go through the presentation. So without further ado, let's get it underway. So I am I'm a real estate investment broker with Raise the Standard Real Estate. My broker license is with Next Home My Way. I am the director of agent development with Next Home My Way. So I have a background of assisting other agents with building their real estate business. So the problem no one talks about, right? Thousands of people want to get into real estate investment. They, read the books. Now with YouTube, they watch the videos of multiple people sharing with how they built their real estate, portfolio and how they're living off of it. I co-run an investor meetup group here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and the original creator of that group is someone that is doing that. He has a portfolio of 60 plus units, and that's what he does. He doesn't have another 9 to 5. All he does is manage those properties and try and acquire more with the individuals that help invest with him to build that up. So we have it around us, and different people in our investment group does it as well. So all those things, you get to a point where eventually you need to make a choice, right? And individuals will read books, they'll listen to podcasts for 12, 24 months, right? 2 years. And some people get into a situation where, maybe they don't have the necessary, credit score or things like that, or they're in between jobs, right? One thing with, real estate, if you try to get a loan from a bank, you need 2 years of taxes. So, some people try to get into real estate as an agent and then leave their other job, and then they're an agent, and then now a bank won't loan to them because they haven't filed taxes for 2 years as a real estate agent. That's something I had to recently go through because I was working a 9 to 5. I had my broker license on the side, and I was doing deals. So, but I was able to actually file taxes while I had another 9 to 5. So basically, my first, full year back into real estate, um, that was actually my second year. So you got to strategize, and that's what I'm all about, right? Most, like I said again, most people just sit on the sidelines and then they say, "Well, I'm waiting for the market change." The difference between a retail investor or a retail buyer and an investor, you're looking for the deal. It's not about the market. It's not about interest rates, because at the end of the day, you're not paying that mortgage. You got someone else paying that mortgage. So as long as you run the numbers and the numbers cover your debt, that's a deal. And we will keep going through that as we go through this presentation. So why should you listen to me? Well, as I share with you, I have my real estate broker license. I am a director of agent development here at Next Home My Way. I am a broker over my small company within there, which is Raise the Standard Real Estate. I've also been an investor. I've had units up to 15 units. I've been a property manager for over 300, no, 400 some units in my career. I also graduated from the ACRE program, and then I ran the ACRE program for a year, establishing that and getting everything up and running from that standpoint. My background is what kind of makes me different than normal agents, and why I understand investors, that I have my bachelor's in finance. I graduated from the UW Milwaukee. I have my bachelor's in finance with 2 minors. One minor is in economics. I have another minor in economic development. And then I have 2 certificates that I also got from there. I got a certificate in international business when I studied abroad in Paris, France. And then I got another certificate in when I studied abroad in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. It was a very cool program where I got a certificate in Latin Caribbean Studies, where it was 2 streams of programs, which was international finance and Portuguese. So, eu falo português pouco. So I have the background in finance, but I've always loved real estate, and I just had an opportunity to be lucky enough to combine those two. As I tell people, I don't work with retail buyers. The only time I help people buy their dream home is that we built a real estate portfolio together, and that comes to my my business acronym, if you want to say. I don't help you buy a property. I help you buy a business. The business just happens to be a property, right? I had a video today where I was talking about, Chick-fil-A and Burger King. Well, you wouldn't compare those companies the same. And that's the same thing with real estate. Just because a duplex is the similar size as another duplex doesn't mean they're the same and they should be priced the same. And I will go into that further on, but that's why you should listen to me. I actually have a background in finance. I love real estate. I've been wanting to do this since I was 18. I'm not going to tell you my age now, but I'm up there in age. But my whole life has come up to this point to be able to speak to this and want to educate other individuals on how to build their real estate portfolio. So let's get into it. What's the real reason why investors don't close? They're not motivated enough. There is a point where you just have to get to where you're motivated enough to pull the trigger. I've had clients where we pulled the trigger, got under contract, and they backed out right at the end because the motivation wasn't really there to go through with it. There was a fear there. And you have to recognize that it just takes more than just the motivation, right? And it takes more than just the intelligence, because that guy was smart. He knew what he wanted to do. He had the knowledge. He had the numbers, and it wasn't the market, right? The market said that deal should work, and he backed out of it, right? But what I realized, even in that situation, it was just a lack of structure. It was him feeling confident enough to know that I had his back. We had a system in place for him to do the things that he needed to do. And once he accepted that, I've closed 2 more. I've closed another deal with him where he has up to $500,000 real estate portfolio, and he only spent around, I want to say maybe 350,000 from buying the two properties and the money that he put into it. I want probably maybe 350 to four, but he has basically a $500,000 portfolio, and that was all because we, the team that I work with, and showing him that he had the people in place and he had the systems to take, to take the execution. I want to say 50% of my clients are out of state investors, and a lot of it is building trust. Is letting them know that they can invest at a distance, and the job will get done as long as he trusts the team. And that's a big part of what I do, is giving them that structure and that system so that they can execute. So why most real estate education fails? Well, at the end of the day, it's someone trying to sell you the experience that they went on. And so it has to be somewhat motivational, right? It has to be somewhat inspirational. And some of the times it's theory, right? Some of it is educators who write books. I've read a bunch of books from educators that all they do is, they invest on the side, or they invest in the stock market. They've actually never pulled a trigger on an actual property that they held themselves. It was always a syndication or things of that nature. So, most programs is to make you feel good, right? And that's what I kind of try to tell the difference between me and a guru, is because I have my actual real estate broker license. What I'm sharing with you, I can actually hold your hand through the entire process. Especially as long as you buy in Wisconsin, I can do you. Now, if you're somewhere else, I can give you the strategy. But because I'm in it, because I have my broker license, I can work you through it. Because I'm an actual investor and I work with other investors, I know the business side of it. As I said before, you're not buying a property, you're buying a business. It just so happens to be a property, right? So a lot of them just say, like, for example, I hate the machine gun effect where you send out 100 offers. You don't need to send out 100 offers. You don't need to do that. That's not a thing. But that's someone who personally didn't know how to build relationship with good agents, right? They're like, I don't work with investors who want to use 4 or 5 different agents. If that's what you want to do, cool, that's your strategy, then you can use that strategy. I try to build relationships with my clients because I want to understand what they're trying to accomplish and what are their goals. Some people, well, I want multiple people, so I have multiple deals come for me. Well, think about that. I got 5 agents that I'm hoping that they'll bring me a deal, but I'm not signed with either one of them. You're not loyal to them, so why would they be loyal to you? And that's what all I try to preach. And a lot of agents, let's just be real, they're looking for the next deal, right? So they're not strategizing with you and understanding truly what a BRRRR method is, or what is house hacking, what is a flip and flicks, right? They kind of know those things because they are interacting with enough, and they're just like anyone else. They're watching YouTube videos to kind of understand it. But, one of the things that I try to share with one of my clients recently is that, it wasn't a client, it was someone that was trying to work with me, and they were struggling with their strategy. Well, they wanted to scale, but the property they bought brought them cash flow. So I was like, well, you bought the wrong property. And he was like, what do you mean? Well, you bought this property for cash flow and you didn't use the BRRRR method. Because if you wanted to scale, you need to get your money back as soon as possible so that you can go get the next deal. You just bought for cash flow. So now you have to wait unless you force appreciate that property so that you are able to pull money out. So you can't scale. You just put your money in there, and now you have to wait until they appreciate enough so that you can be able to pull that money out. So that strategy, even though it's cash flowing, it didn't meet his actual true strategy. So those are things that just because something cash flow doesn't necessarily means it's meeting the strategy that you're trying to accomplish. If you're trying to buy 1 a year, then that strategy works because he's getting cash flow. But he was trying to buy 2, 3, 4 in the same year. Well, then that strategy doesn't work for you, right? That financing structure didn't work because in that situation, he should have did a hard money loan. And I'll go through some of these things, but he should have got a hard money loan which then he could fix it up, force the appreciation, rent it out, get the new leases, and then refinance into a DSCR loan. That would accomplish his goal because now he would have got some of that money back, and then he would have been able to invest that back into the next deal. Again, this is risk management. This is execution discipline, making sure that we go through these parameters to understand what they're trying to accomplish, to minimize risk as much because you can't eliminate it, and then pulling the trigger when something meets their criteria. So as I'm going through this, who's this webinar for? This webinar is for, sorry about that, light went off. Webinars for first-time investment, someone who's building their portfolio, learning from executing, right? These are individuals that need to realize that this is not a hobby. I think what happens a lot of times is that a lot of investors buy their first property and they kind of treat it like a hobby. They just assume that I'm going to just start collecting rent and I ain't got to worry about anything. And I just think that's stagnant. Buying one property a year, I think that's smart. It's a good investment strategy. If you want to slow roll it and you want to build things that way, I still think you should treat it like a business. There's certain things you can have set up. A lot of my clients are very good at their jobs, right? They're CPAs, they're doctors, they're nurses, traveling nurses, they're, executives in their own right. To invest in real estate and then be on the weekends trying to change toilets just doesn't make sense to me, right? And it's like, well, I want to save money. You're not actually saving money, right? I always try to tell them to break down their hourly wage, right? And so, for example, if you make, I learned this in my situation. At the time, I wanted to make $100 an hour, and I had my 4-unit, and I wanted to paint it myself because I thought I was going to save money. Well, it took me 20 hours to paint the front room and living room and things of that nature. So 20 times 100 is $2,000. I could have hired someone to do that for $700. I lost $1,300, but because I didn't physically lose $1,300, it doesn't, you don't feel like you're losing that money, but that's what happened. I lost $1,300 because I could have paid someone $700 to do that while I found the next deal. I could have put, let's say it took them 5 hours. I had 15 hours that I could have been putting to use to actually make more money off of that, right? I could have put my $100 to use to those 15 hours to find the next deal, to make that investment even better. But I didn't do that. I wasted time and I wasted money, but I learned a lesson, right? And again, this is not for people who are just still wanting to read books, right? I'm not working with individuals who are kicking the tires. I'm working with individuals that want to keep moving forward. I have systems in place. I have other services where I can assist you along with just, hey, if you're at the point where you just want to run deals so that you can get better at it, I have a service for that. I call that the RTS Investment Council, where I'll run so many deals for you. I'll go to so many properties for you to help you better understand the strategy that you're trying to accomplish. But I'm not about for motivation. There's enough of that on YouTube. There's enough of that on Instagram where you can get motivated and want to keep moving forward. But I'm about execution. All right, my promise at the end of this presentation, you will know how to create a 90-day plan that puts you in a position to. So the 90-day program, there's 3 results if you ever sign up for the 90-day program. Obviously, this presentation is not really about the 90-day program, but if you ever got into the 90-day program, there's 3 things that will happen. You either close the deal before the 90-day program is up, you'll be in the process of closing the deal, or you will have a clear strategy on how to close the deal. And in that situation, either you are unable to get a loan or you don't have the down payment to move forward with a deal. So With the 90-day program, that's what's going to happen. So if you work with me and you get into that, that's what's going to happen. There's only three outcomes. Because even if you can't, like I said, even if you can't do it, you will know how to do it when you're able to get the resources to do it. So again, you're still moving forward. You're still doing things to help you keep moving along in the process. This is not about stagnant. We're not about sitting water. We're not the Dead Sea. We are always moving. We are a running river that is flowing, always making things happen. So this is, sorry. Oh, sorry about that. Real live, no editing. So what is the RTS execution framework? So sorry about that. This is how the vision, the system that I use with investors, right? There is some structure, right? There is some figuring out what are you trying to accomplish, right? Some people, like when I get to them, it's a married couple. They want to, their initial goal is to replace someone's income, right? A lot of people, have the I don't want to be sex. Wife stays home, right, with the kids or things like that, or want to take some stress off of it because they have another source of income. So we need to understand your vision, right? Because I call it reverse engineering. So for example, hey, we want to make $5,000 a month. Cool, great. That's your vision. You want to be able to go on more trips a year, and bring in an extra $60,000 a year. Awesome, $5,000 a month. So then I'll say, hey, what is a comfortable amount that you would like to make from each door that we get? Let's say 250. Well, 250 divided into 5,000. I believe that's 20 doors, right? So 2 times 25 is 50, right? So 250 times 20 is $5,000. So we need 20 doors. So now we can do it, right? Now we have a vision. Now we have a direction. Now we can actually analyze deals, right? Because I can analyze a deal, and if one duplex says making 150 a door, that's 300, and then another one is making, let's say, 200 a door, right? That's $400. I'm going to naturally just assume like, okay, the 400 is making more, so that might be a better deal. Well, if I look deeper into the one that's 150 and it's 300, but it's a possibility where I can make 500 a door, well, that actually is a better property. But I couldn't really do that if I didn't have my number that I need, right? Numbers are arbitrary. If you don't have a number to give you your foundation, numbers are relative. So you got to have your number so you can actually analyze deals. And then we go into the education. You need to learn about a DSCR loan, right? You need to know about hard money loan. You need to know about house hacking, BRRRR method, fix and flip. There is some education. There is some structure to it. There is the education of understanding what these is. What is a cap rate? What is cash on cash return? What are these things to help you better understand when you see these words, right? And understanding that, which then goes into the strategy, right? Then now I can say, well, based on what you said, like I told you about the previous client, well, I want to scale, so I need to do the BRRRR method. Now we can actually strategize, because now he understands, hey, if I just focus on cash flow, maybe I only get $100 in cash flow, but I get to pull out $40,000. Well, that's better than me just getting $500 in cash flow and I can't pull any money out. And you would say, well, Charles, I like the $500 a month. But yeah, but now you just have to wait, let's say 5 years to get the 40,000. I'd rather have the 40,000 a day and get $100 a month than to get $500 now a month, and I gotta wait for me to get the actually 40,000. A lump sum of money today is always better than staggered cash flow throughout, right? So, and that's a strategy. Someone might say, no, Charles, I actually like the $500 a month and I want that. Now we actually can better understand that, so that we can execute. Hey, this property accomplished that. You're not going to be able to pull any money out, but you'll get the cash flow that you want. perfect, right? Then we can execute. Now we can pull the trigger. I always talk about a situation where I had with a client where we ran the numbers on a property and they were like, well, I don't want to go in that area. And then we were still kind of going through the learning process. And because I deal with just investors, I was able to have the argument of, no, we have to go look at this property because you told me you want to make $200 a door. This property makes $500. We have to go see it. Now, if you make a decision that you don't want to move forward after that, that's cool. But we have to go see this because this is the strategy that we came up and we agreed with. You can't let your emotions get in a way of accomplishing your goal. And that's part of why we have this system in place so that your emotions can't get in the way. You're going to have bad tenants wherever you go, right? I know I have people that say I only invest in certain areas. I go where the deal is. And that's part of why we have this execution framework. So you just go where the deal is and you can pull the trigger because you're actually going to scale much quicker if you don't limit yourself from certain areas because you think certain people are in certain places and they're not going to pay rent. People don't pay rent everywhere. So once you get past that and don't have that emotional aspect to your buy box, then you can scale much quicker than someone who has their buy box that actually what a buy box is, it frames you, it gives you tunnel vision. Not to say you shouldn't have a framework because that's part of the strategy, but don't be so locked in where you're losing money because you're saying that you won't go to certain places. And that's why I said, if it's about scaling, you got to open yourself up. And like, that's the last pillar is how do we scale this, right? If it's, again, if it's one a year, we still scaling, right? How do we make sure we get you one a year, right? Because eventually you're going to run out of money. And that third, fourth year, you might not have the extra $20,000. So how do we get you to get that money so you get the next deal? So pillar one, again, most investors fail here because they don't have any vision. They don't know what they're trying to do. Vision creates the discipline, right? It's, okay, what are we trying to accomplish? So now, what are we doing every day? What are we aiming for, right? Because it's just like anything else. Like, why are you getting out of bed to analyze 3 deals a day, right? Analyzing 5 deals a day. Well, we need to make sure you analyze 5 deals a day so that we can put 1 offer a day or 1 offer a week. We got to analyze 5 deals a day or 3 deals a day so that we can narrow it down to 5 properties that you like so we can go look at 3 of those and you write 1 offer. You got to have that vision. Education, right? Deal math, right? You have to understand how this works, right? Cash on cash return. Like, people throw those things around like, hey, I want a cash on cash return of 15%, but they never know what that means. So for example, cash on cash return just basically means for every dollar I invest in there, I want something back. So if I say I want a 15% cash on cash return, I want to invest $1, I want $1.15 back, right? That's all it is. So you got to understand that math, right? You got to understand what an IRR is. You got to understand what cap rates are, right? Cap rates are not used in our industry, especially in this area of most people who buy what I would like to say between 1 and I would even say almost 20 units. 20 units, you're kind of getting up there where you're going to get some sophisticated investors. But I would probably say you're 1 to 10. They're rarely using cap rate. They're rarely using certain things like that because most agents that are representing them, 80% of the time is selling single family homes. And single family homes, you don't need a cap rate, right? And so like you don't need to compare different types of properties to each other, try to better understand what the true value of it, right? Again, with me having a finance background, I understand these things. I understand that, again, this duplex, even though it's the same size and make of this other one, don't mean they're the same, right? So you need those things to minimize risk. Financing is different, right? Hard money loans, DSCR loans, private funding, raising funds from friends and using hard money and needing to give them a certain return. This is what called WAC in financing, weighted average cost of capital, right? I'm borrowing money from friends and they want an 8% return, and I'm borrowing hard money and they want 14% for theirs. That's is that 22%? Well, no, because I got to pay them back in 5 years, and I got to pay the hard money back in 6 months. That's a weighted average cost of capital is entirely different. So when I look at all together, I'm just going to pick a random number with the 14 and the 10. It's actually 11% is what is costing me for the length of this money, because of all these different things. And then I got to refinance the hard money into a DSCR loan, and the DSCR loan is going to be 9%. Well, that percentage with me refinancing, and then I can probably pay them off, so I'm paying them off sooner. So all those things deal with financing. If you don't have a comprehension of that, you're just going to be saying, oh, all I can do is get a loan from the bank, all I can do is do an FHA, right? You got to have some understanding of financing. And then market dynamics. I just had a post recently about the market correcting. I don't care. Because when you're an investor, you're just looking at deals. And if the interest rate's going up, cool, I'm going to raise rent. I know that might sound bad from a landlord standpoint, but you're just doing what the market dictates, right? In the sense of, well, the interest rates are higher, so I got to charge higher rents. That, just like Home Depot, lumber goes up, they pass that off on you. I mean, we just been talking about tariffs, right? Tariffs made things go up. They pass that on to the customer. It's just what it is. Strategy. We talked about this, right? BRRRR method, buy and hold. I keep knocking this off. I'm sorry. Real life. This is not pre-recorded. What is your strategy, right? Just because this is your first deal doesn't mean you can't go after a 5 unit. If you have the money, you have the resources, and you have the people, hey, let's go after an 8 unit. Most of the times, if you're scaling, you want to do a BRRRR method, right? BRRRR method is buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat, right? And that is how most people scale, right? It's kind of like the value add rentals, right? You want to do a little bit to the rental, right? You can do just like the situation I did. They did a little value add. They were able to rent out one of the units, but they didn't do enough value add where they were able to pull the money out. So they were just able to increase the rent, right? If you just go in there, paint something, put new flooring in there, and that's it. Yeah, now you just went from $900 to $1,000, but you didn't make enough improvements where now it went from $100,000 property to $150,000 property, right? It was just enough to get higher rent. Well, in that situation, you're just going to increase your cash flow, but you didn't really increase, you didn't increase the value of the property enough where it made a huge difference, right? And then buy and hold, I just kind of call that your Microsoft purchases, right? Microsoft is never going to really jump that big anymore, just because it's been on the market for a while. It has the money, what it is. That's kind of when you're buying in the very good neighborhood. So like in Wisconsin, that's buying in your Bayview area. You're buying in the Wauwatosa, Waukesha areas. You're kind of buying for the area, so you're going to pay a premium for that. And then because of these strategies, it's going to determine your financing, right? If BRRRR method, well, you should either if you're going to buy rehab, you probably want to use a hard money loan, because the hard money loan is going to give you money to buy it, but they're also going to give you money to rehab it. That dictates it. Then I'm going to go to a DSCR loan because I need to refinance out the hard money. Well, if you didn't know that, you might just get a DSCR loan, or you might just go get a regular conventional loan, and now you have to come out of your own cash to do the rehab. I think that's a waste of money, because you can use someone else's money to do the rehab and have your cash to go get the next deal. So again, that deals with a lot of your financing, your buy box, and your exit strategy, right? A fix and flip. Again, if you're doing a fix and flip, probably should use hard money unless you have the cash, you buy it, but you're typically only going to have that property between 2 and 4 months. Well, let's use hard money. It's It's not that much, the higher interest rate, but you get access to that cash. Well, if you have enough cash and you want to use it as, maybe you are a general contractor and you can say, well, I can use me to do it, and therefore I can just use a DSCR loan. That's again coming with your strategy and how you're going to approach it, which then deals with how you're going to exit it out. We'll move along here. Execution, right? We run into real numbers, reviewing the property. So this is one of the things that I offer in my RTS Investment Council, is that I'll help you run the numbers. I'll actually go and view the properties for you. And then you have to make a decision from that standpoint if you want to submit the offers, right? And then help you negotiate the deals. So this is where I say it's getting fun, because you're actually in it. This is where, you put in the deals where you're going to have an inspection. I'm actually going through that right now. They were haggling with the price. Well, I told my client, hey, let's just get it under contract. We inspect it. Once we inspect it, we find things wrong. Now we can negotiate. Sometimes sellers, because they're working with certain agents, don't know the true value of their property, and they have their emotions in it, and they say this worth this because it's getting this much rent or whatever. That doesn't necessarily mean that. Like, some people are overcharging for the type of property that they have, and even though they might be renting it out for, let's say, $1,300, but I gotta improve everything. I gotta replace the roof. I gotta replace the water meter. I gotta replace the furnace. Just because it's renting out at $1,300 doesn't mean that's the value of that property, right? Those are, again, if you are just looking at the rent, you might overpay for something that you have to put a lot of money in. So a lot of people ask me, how do I run numbers? So you don't know, this is the investor meetup group. It's called Aspire Mastermind group that we run. We meet monthly, second Wednesday, which is coming up next Wednesday. We built the calculator from it. And in that calculator, I kind of use the acronym of Aspire to come up with a framework to analyze deals. So A is for address asset. That is, what's the property, what's the address, what's the fundamentals, is it a single family duplex, things of that nature. Seller situation, S. Is it a individual? Did they inherit it? Is it a bank owned? One of those things, because that deals with the leverage or how you strategize. Price and purchase assumption. What price are they asking for, right? If you're wholesaling, or is it already on the market? But then what are your purchase assumptions? Just because they have it on the market at 150 doesn't mean that's where it should sell at, right? It might be worth 130, and that's where you need to run your numbers at. Improvements in investment. Does it, just because they're selling it for 150 and I want to buy it for 130, or let's say 120, I need to put 15 in it. Well, I'm not going to pay you 150 because I got to put 15,000 in it, right? And that's, now you're trying to take my profit, because now if I buy it at 150 and I put the 15 in it, and I'm in at 165, but it's actually worth 150. I'm behind the 8 ball, right? And then that's part of looking at revenue, right? Are we going to fix and flip it? What is the ARV? If we improve it and keep it, what is the new rent's going to be, so that we can refinance out of it, pull the money out, and make sure the new rents can cover the new loan, which then ends up with the exit strategy. There's typically 5 exit strategies that we go through. Again, this forces discipline. Now you're just not randomly running numbers. You're not just randomly looking at the situation. You're looking at each one to say, how does this property work for me? How can I get what I'm trying to ultimately accomplish done? Does it meet these criteria? Can I answer these questions, right? This has nothing to do with emotions. Like, I don't like the area. None of those questions are in there about, do I like something? It's, does the address support my strategy? Can I get the money that I'm looking for in that area? If it says yes, then it's not like, well, I don't like that area. It doesn't matter. The numbers are there for that area, so we should move forward, right? So this Aspire framework gives you that discipline so that you can move forward and you're not guessing. Again, Aspire calculator, it helps you run deals. So like, I built the calculator through ChatGPT. I'm still rolling out. I'm working behind the scenes. It's more of a internal tool Eventually, we want to get to a point where it's safe enough that we can release it to the public. But right now, this is more of an internal calculator I use to help my clients um, run more deals. Right. The beauty of it that I like is that I can actually talk to it, and I'm not just typing in numbers, and I can give it certain situations and everything else. So it's a great tool that um, working with Aspire or me, you get access to it. And like I said, I feel like I can run more deals with people because of it. Why most investors never execute? They don't have a structure, guys. Like at the end of the day, it's willy nilly. They don't have a framework. They don't have a strategy. They're just reading books, and then they start analyzing deals, and then they get analysis paralysis. It's it is what it is, right? It's that they don't. Oops, sorry. They don't. Um, there's no structure. They don't have the confidence. They don't to move forward with what they said that they are going to do to make the deal work, and then do it every time, right? As long as if you have some structure and the deals are not coming through, we can adjust that. We can adjust the results, right? The results are what they are, right? If I'm not getting any deals done and I'm running whatever numbers I'm running, that doesn't change the outcome. So I have to change the process. So as long as we have a structure, we can change that. As I tell my agents and my clients is I can fix a bad plan. I can't fix a no plan. So we got to have a plan. And that's what most investors don't really have. They don't have a plan, which then they don't have a structure. And five, the final pillar, scaling. Once you close one deal, you're off to the races. And sometimes you got to be around other individuals who've done it and realize that you will have a bad deal. It's gonna happen. I've had a bad deal. I've lost money. I've lost other people's money. I've lost investors' money. It's just happened. You just got to get over it. You can never let that stop you. And some people say the first deal, you can't let the first deal be a bad deal. That's incorrect. Whenever a bad deal happens, it can be a bad deal that ruins you. It could be your 50th deal, and that deal ruins you and wipe out everything. Guess what? You got to pick yourself back up and go after it again. So if it's the first deal that's bad, or the second one, or the 50th one, you're gonna have a bad deal. But hopefully you've got gained experience. You start getting some credibility. You're building some of those financing relationships, and then you build that confidence. So even on that first deal, you should have met some people. You should have, started experiencing running multiple deals and seeing things differently. So now that you're saying, oh, I kind of know why that first deal failed. I know what I need to do now, and now I can rework it, right? Maybe you lost only $5,000 after selling it, or something happens, right? Most times people don't realize, like, hey, you can buy it on day one and then lightning strikes it. That's technically a bad deal right now, right? But hopefully you put in there your insurance and everything else and you can recover. But that was a bad deal because now your time frame is off, right? Now you thought you're going to make your money back in 3 years and maybe it's now a 7. Is that a bad deal? Well, yeah, because you said you're going to make your money back in 3. Now it's 7, but eventually you did it. So you got to change the framework. To scale means to keep moving forward and learn from every situation. The sooner you do that, the sooner you can move forward, right? As all the people out there fail quickly so you can keep moving forward. Again, so the 90-day execution plan, days 1 through 30 is foundation, right? It's figuring out your buy box, seeing if your finances are ready, and start analyzing deals, right? That's kind of what you do. Like we're building that up. What I always tell my clients, you technically shouldn't talk to me first. You should be going to a lender. A lender should tell you if you are eligible to get a loan. If you're eligible to get a loan, then now you really come into the agent and say, okay, this is how much I can afford. Well, that helps with the buy box. That helps with what you can get. Once we get that, that's your foundation. Now we off to the races. Then, days 31 through 60, property tours. We kind of know now because we ran enough analysis that we see what the market is offering and what kind of property you're looking for. If it's single family homes, if you want to do fix and flips to build your, strategy that way. And that's what some people do, right? Hey, I want to do a bunch of fix and flips to build enough of enough cash flow or enough nest egg where I can go buy some rental properties. And that's what some people do. So that's what you have to start the process with. Then you got to go on property tours. You got to know your area. One of the things why a lot of out-of-state investors like working with me is because I know the areas that they want to be in. I can explain it. I can tell them what a busy, that busy street over there. And, Milwaukee is very segregated. So like one block, you get a house for 300,000 and then 2 blocks over, it's 175. Why is that? Can we take advantage of that? And I tell people, yeah. So that's one of the reasons why I said you shouldn't be avoiding certain areas, because I want the house that was 175, because if it's 2 blocks away from the 300,000, then I can do some things to that property. When I get appraisal done, guess what? That appraisal is going to pull up that $300,000 property. That helps me with my ARV. That helps me with pulling money out. That's what helps with, offer submissions, knowing where we need to offer stuff, and that helps with negotiation. As I shared, some sellers are hard-headed. So you got to negotiate and say, hey, you know what? Let's get under this deal. We're 20,000 away. And that's another thing that I just want to share. A lot of people get so caught up with 10, 20, 30, 40,000. At the end of the day, when you're looking at your mortgage, $20,000 is probably a $50 difference in your monthly payment. Are you going to miss out on a deal because you're so caught up that you need a number at a certain point, when at the end of the day, your mortgage is only going to be $50 more? Now, that's different when you're a retail buyer, right? That's $50 out of your check, right? So if you're not getting extra money, that's going to be a problem. But when someone else is paying your mortgage, you can afford to pay an extra $50 because they're paying that extra $50. A lot of people don't have that mindset, and that's what some of the things that I help teach. Now, closing strategy, right? Contract execution, inspection, all those things, final underwriting, going through that process, getting the, your contractors in place, right? Because those are things that you need to be going from day one, especially with a fix and flip. You can't be waiting 5 days after a fix and flip when you got a hard money loan. You got to be closing on that Monday. You got to start doing demolition Monday evening. Only reason why someone will fail, access to capital, right? If you don't figure out the capital, you can't get a deal done, right? So, but people are around money. As I tell everyone, once you start deciding that you want to be in real estate, you need to start telling everyone that you're in real estate, even before you close your first deal. Because someone next to you might be like, yeah, I want to invest, but I'm scared. Well, that's your first private partner. Hey, you got an extra 30,000. I'm willing to do all these things. Give me the $30,000 to go get this deal done. People are thinking this is a one-man game. This is not. The sooner you learn that this is a team sport, the sooner you can scale. The reality, if someone commits to learning the system, reviewing deals, submitting offers within those 90 days, I guarantee you're going to close a deal before the 90 days. You're either going to be under contract, about to close, or you have a clear path. That is just the reality. I'm sorry. I'm too good at this not to be able to promise that. Because even if you don't have the credit score, we will know what you need to do. Because I will send you to a lender. The lender will say, nope, they don't approve. But if they pay this off, and they have $5,000, we can get them an FHA loan. That is a plan. But if you sit here and say, I can't do it, I'm not going to go to a lender because I got to pay my credit cards off, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't want to move forward. You just want to make excuses. That's the reality. Again, what I built to help you. So there's one, it's the RTS Investment Council. That's literally about deal analysis. That's probably for that person that I'm talking about. They're kind of nervous. They don't want, you can pay a monthly fee. I will run through so many numbers for you, so many analyzing deals for you. I will go and look so that you can have some understanding. I'll take videos of those properties. I tend to not try to take people with me on those because I can move quicker. I can videotape them. You can actually look through the videos. You can better understand it. You can go back and forth and look through them, help you better get to a point where you feel like, okay, I'm confident enough to move forward with this. The other one is more hands-on. That's you're paying for my strategy. You're paying for me to work one-on-one with you. This is before the buyer agency. This is really sitting down, better understanding what you're trying to accomplish, spending those, couple hours, really breaking down what we're trying to accomplish. So the first one is just service. I'm just doing it, giving you the results, and you're kind of deciphering. If you want to take it to the next level, it's the RTS execution pathways, where we literally build out your strategy. We really build out how we're going to scale your business, how we're going to go from zero. So one of the things I'm taking on 25 applicants right now. I want 25 candidates to help them get $1 million portfolio in the next 3 years. One of my one of my clients right now, he's already at $500,000 in 1 year. So that's what like I said, that's part of my execution pathways, is that we get you from zero to $500,000 in 1 year, and then hopefully $1 million in year 2 to 3. It's just really on your ability to keep moving and keeping up with me, and making sure that when we find that property, you pull the trigger. Again, the Investment Council, like I said, is advisory access. It kind of gets you access to the Aspire framework, the calculator. There's 3 different levels. The starter, I run so many properties for you in a month. The pro, you get a little bit more. You get a quicker turnaround. And then elite, you just get free access. I mean, you get unlimited access of how many properties you want to run and things of that nature, just to help you get through and process more and more. I guess the execution pathways, there's 3 levels of that as well. The first one, obviously, is basically the 90-day program. The second level includes all that, but you get more hands-on. We go deeper. We get more personal. And then the capital partner is that I'm literally helping you build out really a 5 to 10 year plan. I'm helping you with even capital partners, like helping you fundraise, finding those things out. Learning how, either setting you up with other type of private funding, helping you scale. This is the individuals that's probably trying to, possibly want to do a portfolio, and things of that nature. More a little sophisticated, trying to grow a little bit quicker. But we really dive deep into a 5 to 10 year plan. I would say the execution plus is probably 3 to 5, and then the investor execution program is 1 to 3. Again, the execution gap. Most people fail because they lack structure and accountability, and that's one thing that I do. As I share with one of my clients, he probably knows if he's seeing this now. I held him accountable. Like, we had a deal that he bagged out on the day of the deal, and it was a good deal, but he got nervous, and it was just the lack of confidence, that knowing that he was doing the right thing. Right? He had the deal. He just lacked the structure, and I take full responsibility of maybe not giving him the structure that he needed to know that he was in good hands. And I've gotten better with that, and making sure that my clients know that they're not going to fail because I'm not going to fail. We're in this together, and that's the difference between an agent and me. We're in this together. We're a team. As I tell people, I don't ask for referrals. I don't need referrals because I need you to buy another property. So why do I need you to tell me about your uncle that needs to buy a house? No, I need you to do this deal. I need you to execute your strategy so we can pull that money out and we can go get the next deal. And that's, at the end of the day, that's what I do differently than other agents, is that I don't need a referral because I'm going to have you buy multiple properties. Again, the investor execution program, it just goes into depth of that. In 90 days, you will have one of 3 outcomes. You either close it on that deal, or you already closed, you're about to close, or we are literally positioned that in the next 90 days how to get you started and get you moving forward. So again, these are the two ways you can apply. If you're just saying, hey, I'm still at the point where I just want to run analysis, I want to better understand this, and I need some guidance on how to better, articulate what a cap rate is and what makes a good deal for me, I would say go with the RTS Investment Council. If you're ready to roll, I would say sign up for the Investor Execution Program. That's the 90-day program, which part of that, I will enroll you into the Inspire 90-day program, and then I would enroll you into the Aspire Mastermind Group, which I will show you right now. Let me bring this up. So there's 3 different levels. Aspire has a 29 month fee to be a part of the group. With this, you will be able to come to our monthly meetings. It's the second Wednesday of every month. You are able to have access to other investors, have that communication. One of the cool things about our meetups is that we actually ask people to come with their laptops, because we actually run deals in there. We're a little bit different than other mastermind groups. It's more social. They just kind of get together. Sometimes we have speakers that come to ours. This month we actually have Anthony Maki coming to speak. He's a hard money lender. He's one of the top ones in the state of Wisconsin, and he's going to be speaking to us about hard money loans and how that works and how he got to his point. He initially started off as an investor and got into hard money. The next level we have is the Premier. Obviously, everything that's included with a standard. You get access to more educational stuff, and then you get access to some of our senior leadership, which then leads into ultimate VIP, where you get access to all our leaders at that point. Obviously, you'll be able to schedule some time, and then you have access to all the education. The cool thing about us, we have, as you can see on there, Beast. We have different levels. We have Lion, Bull, Dragon, and Phoenix. And each level, you have to do some education. Even if you went through all the education, but you never did a deal, you're still a lion. So that's the beauty of our program, is that you can do all the education you want, but that doesn't mean anything if you're not actually doing deals. And then the Deal Council. So like I said, if you're just trying to start off, I charge $149 a month. This will give you access to be running so many deals a month for you, going to the properties, giving you some videos on them, analyzing, showing you what could possibly be the rehab budget and those things. And then again, this is the Pro. A little bit more, you get more properties that we can analyze for you. You get a quicker turnaround. It's typically 24 hours, where the starter is 48 hours. And then the Elite, it's pretty much, immediately, 24 hours still, but you get more hands-on-hand interaction with the deals and things like that, breaking it down for you as well. So we're at our hour, and that's it, man. This is Raise the Standard, trying to bring a different element to real estate investing. Again, I'm real estate investment broker, right? I don't help you buy a property. I help you invest in a business. It just so happens to be a property, and that's what we're trying to bring. The new and mid-tier investors, before you get to the commercial real estate where you're buying 10 and 20 units and things of that nature, you got the commercial brokers. They're going to take care of you and run some of these analysis that I'm talking about that is not brought to this group of individuals, right? It takes a while before you get access to this type of analysis because you're not dealing with that sophistication. Well, I recognize that. I realized this was the missing middle. These individuals missing someone who understood cap rate. These individuals are missing someone who understands what an IRR is. There's individuals that understand what cash on cash return is. So that's what I wanted to bring to this this market, because you guys need it, because you can grow it quick. A lot of people fail at this because they don't have the structure. As I tell a lot of my clients, once I get my commission, my business actually starts, right? Because now I'm helping you run that business, because the sooner you run that successfully, you're going to buy another property. And that's what I want. So again, I don't need a referral from you. I need you to run your business correctly so that we can get to the next deal soon. So again, remember, I don't help you buy a property. I help you build a business. It just so happens to be a property. I'm Charles Clark, your real estate investment broker. Hopefully I'll hear from you soon. Beleza.